I'm Nate Morton, and I live in Los Angeles, California, and this is how to tune a floor tom bottom head. When I approach tuning, assuming that you've got the top head in a range where you're happy in terms of what the note is, that is to say, if it's a floor tom, you want to try to find the middle of the frequency range or of the sort of the octave for that drum's size and character. At that point, when it comes to tuning the bottom head, the different things that you do are going to affect the way the drum's overall sound is going to be. And none of them are necessarily right or wrong. If you want the drum to sort of have more of an attack and higher overtones, then you would want to tune the floor tom, the bottom head, higher. If you wanted it to have sort of more depth and more bottom and more low end, then you want to go for lower. And obviously those ranges are contingent upon how far you can go with the head. At a certain point, if you tune it up so tight, it's going to sound kind of ridiculous. And at a certain point, if you tune it down so low, it's going to have so much of that in it that that's also going to sound kind of ridiculous. My general goal is to go pretty much as low as I can go with the bottom head on my floor tom, because my floor toms are larger diameter drums and I do want the depth and the roundness of tone out of them. I'm actually pretty happy with how this drum sounds right now. The other thing that I want to go for too is you hear that in the bottom head there's a little bit of a wow, wow. There's a small variation in pitch between the two. That doesn't bother me. If you start to get to a point where, for example, I'm going higher with the bottom head now. Right? So you hear that there's a little less sustain, and really you're kind of hearing more the top head, the attack, and less right? So really what I prefer, as I was saying before, is I prefer to kind of go as low down with the floor tom, with the bottom head, as I can. Now the other thing too that I want to do, even though I'm kind of tuning these kind of haphazardly, really the way you want to approach it is you want to go cross lugs. So if you picked one, if this were lug number 1, the lug across from it would be lug number 2. This would be lug number 3, and the one across from it would be lug number 4. This would be 5, and the one across from it would be 6. This would be 7, and this would be 8. So you kind of want to tune in a sequential order back and forth across the lugs. And the idea is that you're being certain to tension each lug as close to the next as possible. You don't want one lug being super cranked and 7 out of 8 being very, very loose. And one of the ways to sort of verify that is if you kind of go back and forth from lug to lug, and if you just tap lightly, you can sort of hear the slight variations when one is higher than the other. The other thing too I like to do is kind of just stretch the head out a little bit. Sometimes I'll even stand on it. But the idea, as I was saying, is you kind of want to get it, for me, kind of as low as I can go. Now, I've got a little too much of that wow in there for me now, so I want to kind of get this a little up, just so it's not quite. I'm fairly happy with that. So I've got the tune, the pitch, so that it's kind of staying where it's supposed to be as far as I want to hear it. And I'm happy with the sustain, and I'm happy with the amount of depth in the drum. And this has been Nate Morton, and that's how to tune a floor tom bottom head.